Alright, so this video is going to be about prefix multipliers. And all a prefix multiplier is just some power of 10 multiplied by a base unit. Now this base unit could be grams, it could be meters, it could be liters, whatever you happen to be measuring at the time. And each prefix multiplier has a unique prefix, symbol, and power of 10 associated with it. And lastly, prefix multipliers make life very easy. So, I don't know, suppose you're trying to describe to somebody the amount of space that's on the hard drive of your computer. It's much easier to say, I have a terabyte hard drive than I have a 1 trillion byte hard drive. So basically that's basically the origin of prefix multipliers. They're just meant to make things easy when you're dealing with really large or really small quantities. So here's a table of some of the more common prefix multipliers. So here we have the prefix, symbol, and the power of 10. And some of these prefix multipliers are more common than others. Some of them you may have encountered before. Some of them you may have never encountered, and some of them you may never even have to use at all. So, some of them you might want to commit to memory. Prefixes like Mila, you probably know that one already, or kilo, or Centi, or maybe micro and nano. Those are always micro and nano. Those usually, I don't know. I tend to get those two mixed up a lot. Micro is 10 to the negative 6, and nano is 10 to the negative 9. So, I don't know. Another thing that I should point out here is that capitalization is important. In other words, these prefix symbols are case sensitive. What do I mean by that? Well, take a look at the prefix for mega. Now take a look at the prefix for Mila. Excuse me, the symbol for mega and the symbol for Mila. The symbol for mega is capital M, and the symbol for Mila is lowercase m. So if you're one of those people that likes to write in all caps all the time, I recommend not to do this when you're working with prefix multiplier symbols, because suppose, if you want to express the prefix milli and you put in a capital M, well, now you're not really expressing milli at all, you're expressing mega. So you just went from 10 to the negative 3 to 10 to the positive 6. So, and then, obviously, if you try to work out the problem from there, your answer will be wrong, or your teacher, your professor might count off for that. So it's very important to have the right case when you're working with these prefix multiplier symbols. So let's just go through a problem real quick where we convert from one prefix multiplier to another. So suppose I have 6.4 milliliters, and I want to convert that 6.4 milliliters into gigaliters. So we start out with 6.4 milliliters. And of course we're going to be setting up a conversion factor. Now generally what I like to do is I like to convert back to the base unit, and then I'll convert away from that base unit into our desired unit, which in this case is gigaliters. Some people tend to skip this step, but I don't recommend doing that. So if we look at the prefix multiplier for Mila, it says that the prefix multiplier for Mila is 10 to the negative 3. So that means that for every 1 milliliter, there are 10 to the negative 3 liters. But of course we're not trying to get liters, we're trying to get gigaliters. So I'm going to set up a second conversion factor in which we put liters on the bottom now, and then we'll put gigaliters on top. And if we look at the prefix for giga, the prefix for giga is 10 to the 9. 10 to the positive 9. So that means that for every 1 gigaliter we have, there are 10 to the 9 liters. Making sure our units cancel, it looks like milliliters cancel here. And it also looks like the liters cancel here. And we're left with nothing but good old gigaliters. And the great thing about prefix multipliers is that all we're doing is just multiplying. We're just working with powers of 10 here. And when we're working with powers of the same number, we can simply add or subtract these exponents when we're multiplying and dividing them. So, of course, our 6.4 is just going to remain 6.4. So that means we're taking 6.4 times 10 to the negative 3, and we're dividing by 10 to the 9. Whoops, looks like 109. 10 to the 9. And 6.4 times 10 to the negative 3 divided by 10 to the 9 is the same thing as saying 6.4 times 10 to the negative 3 times 10 to the negative 9. And since these two numbers, 10, are both the same, we can simply add together these exponents. And negative 9 plus negative 3, that's negative 12. So our final answer is 6.4 times 10 to the negative 12 gigaliters. Remember to always include your units in your final answer. Let's also check to see if this answer makes sense. Gigaliters is a much larger unit than milliliters. So whatever we started out with, 6.4 milliliters, we started out with that. So our final answer must be much smaller. Without even doing any of these calculations here, we can just intuitively guess that whatever number we get out is going to be much smaller because we're converting from a smaller unit to a larger unit. And indeed, we do have a much smaller number. So there you go. That's how to use prefix multipliers.